Calling to order the regular meeting of the Wheeling Plan Commission for Thursday, November 21st, 2019. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Sure thing. Commissioner Blanova.
I'm here.
Commissioner Sprague.
Here.
Commissioner Kalis is present. Commissioner Yednick.
Here.
Commissioner Thompson.
Here.
Commissioner Creech.
Present.
And Chairman Johnson.
Here. Ms. Nyes, any changes to the agenda at this point?
No changes.
You. Citizens' concerns and comments. Do we have anybody that's here to talk about anything that's not on the agenda?
What?
Something down there? Okay. All right, consent items. Docket number SCBA 19-40, Access Online, 2130 Foster Avenue. And docket number SCBA 19-42, The Learning Experience, 339 West Dundee.
Yeah, Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we take the learning experience out of the consent items. I noticed a discrepancy between the number of requested signs and the architectural drawing, the actual signs.
All right, we will, do we need to vote on it?
You technically don't need a motion. Anybody can pull it, though.
Okay. All right, that will become 7C in the items for review. So we only have the one consent item. Access Online. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Kalis, seconded by Commissioner Sprague.
Commissioner Kalis votes yes. Commissioner Sprague.
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova.
Yes.
Commissioner Yednick.
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
Commissioner Creech.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson.
Yes. Items for review. Docket number PC 19-21, the Emerson Group, major site plan and appearance approval for 222 East Dundee Road. Ms. Nyes, anything to put in this before we have the petitioner?
I think we should start with the petitioners.
All right. You guys are here for that? Come on up.
Rob Costello with Torch Architecture.
Business address?
27 West Jefferson, Naperville, Illinois, 60540.
And I am Todd Stanton, landscape architect, design perspectives, 1280 Iroquois Avenue, Suite 110, Naperville, Illinois, 60563.
All right. Explain to us what it is you're wanting to do.
So there's an existing, was a 3-tenant professional office building. A company, Emerson Group, out of the West Coast, purchased it for their office to relocate. They currently rent space in the neighboring suburb. They represent, at this location, they represent product representatives for Walgreens. They have a number of offices around the United States that are focused on particular retailers and advocating for products trying to get into those stores. So they bought it for a single, going to convert it to a single professional office building for their staff, move out of a rental space and bought the building. Currently the building's a little bit dated. They wanted to update the building to be a little more in line with some of their other offices around the United States. So the whole interior will be renovated, and then the exterior, working within what's there for the building, trying to do a pretty significant renovation to update the look of the building. As far as the site plan work, the building's kind of a unique building. It's a split level, almost like a home. You walk in the front door, you're immediately at a landing, have to go half a flight up, half a flight down. So they wanted to add the vestibule that's shown there on the right, just to give a little more professional appearance when you enter into the space. And then they'd like some outdoor space, but because of the size of the lot, it's a pretty narrow lot and deep, they've added some decks for their employees to be able to have some outdoor space. We're proposing to stain all the brick, just as a matter of making a major change to the building, to the brick that's there. It's in good shape, just a bit of a dated color, and then wrapping some of the wood, and they had some kind of a lot of wood trim and kind of dated appearance, just to update a lot of the trim around it, make it more updated. All new windows, all new doors, new stone veneer, accents, new metal panels. So pretty much everything on the exterior except for the brick, which will be stained, will be renovated. Around the back of the property, there's quite a bit of unwanted activity behind the building, so they'd like to fence off the back of the building to make it a little more safe for their employees to be able to park behind the building and maybe stop some cut-through traffic from some of the neighboring developments. So they just want to put a fence around the back of the property. They'll match the fence and put a trash enclosure that's the same material wrapped around it that'll be behind the building. Composite material. I have samples of all the exterior materials if you'd like to see them, but no maintenance, composite wood type look material for the fence and trash enclosure.
No, that's not you.
That's something else.
That's a 6-foot fence, I see, okay.
I don't think I have your landscape plan, I'm sorry. But if you want to talk about it.
That's him, that's okay.
Oh, here.
If there's any specific questions, we can address specific questions. If not, I think there was,
I can just give you a little, if you just want a little synopsis of the landscape
Sure.
design. I was out there actually earlier. So it's very interesting. You have a lot of overgrown material, things that kind of passed their prime. Once again, kind of dated landscape, much like the building. So the existing landscaping is pretty much going to be removed, and it's going to have a fresh, modern overhaul, very similar to the McDonald's. So the frontage will have perennials, some shrubs, grasses, so a nice sort of modern look in terms of a landscape design. We'll be planting pretty much the entire parking lot with shrubs and other type of perennials. So once again, it will be attractive. We're adding one honey locust, which is similar to the trees that are on the site and adjacent to the McDonald's property. In front of the building, we have some turf and really just a nice, simple foundation planting. The deck will not have any landscaping underneath it. That's going to be tough for anything to survive. So if there's some screening required, I'm sure Rob can figure out how to sort of take care of that sort of understory. There's windows, so once again, got to be careful how much we block the sunlight. And the back's pretty simple, just simple shrubbery and then, the trash enclosure. So very simple, straightforward, very clean. Should complement the architecture very well, but it'll be a dramatic improvement to the landscaping that's out there. So, and I can give you this if you want. This is the updated plan.
Oh, okay.
That's with the trees.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I think I have that.
So I think it'll match the architecture very nice, and it'll definitely be some nice site improvement to the look of the property.
Okay, thank you. Was there anyone in the audience that wanted to talk about this? In our crowd there? Okay, then we'll go to the commission. Commissioner Sprague, let's start down there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, hi, Rob.
hi.
Welcome to Wheeling. I have just a couple questions. Did we get a color for the staining the brick?
We did, I gave it paint color.
Yeah, I put it,
Because in the summary, it just says
I don't know
that
if it's-
staff was waiting for a color.
yeah, it's on your screen right now. It's probably kind of hard to see.
Okay.
Is there any,
I can leave you physical paint color samples, if that's what you'd like.
Okay.
yeah, I think they were more concerned about the brick stain.
We can do, it's hard to something to leave as sample as, because it's a feel applied.
No, this
Product.
is fine. I didn't see anything at all, so this is good. And then my other question was, I did not see anything mentioned about the pavement in the parking lot. And I noticed that there's quite a few spots that could use a little repair. Is there any chance that something could be done with that?
There is, they just split it as a separate project to do that. They need to be out of their, next summer, be out of their rental place, so they are planning to redo that. They just don't want to tie that up and the building and not be able to occupy it, so they do intend to do that.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
And Commissioner Blanova.
Thank you. Will you have any exterior lights on the building?
We won't. If you actually go out to the site at night, there's so many lights from McDonald's on the property line and so many lights from the apartments that you get enough light from them that they don't add any, so we won't be adding any.
Got it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Kalis.
Thank you, Chairman. On that note, the lighting is a good question. Thank you for the answer. That makes sense. Is there code that they need their own light, or how does that? Whoa, sorry about that. Take that.
Amy?
Again.
Is there code for requirement of lighting per building or exterior, or does anybody?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Required unless, well,
There's one existing light on the building in the rear. It's not illuminated now, and the lights overpower from the apartments now.
And I believe you that,
the only
that's
building-
true.
Yeah,
It's just-
that's the only light on there, so,
Is that for the back door?
yeah, there's one over the back door. It's not even on, actually. It's not, it's a photo sensor that actually doesn't trigger because it doesn't get dark enough to.
Yeah, I guess I would wonder, in the event that their lights go out, then you have people walking through the parking lot and you don't have your own lights, so I'm curious what the code has to say about that, so. I don't think you know that answer, but.
We'll have to provide them at the exits, so we'll
Okay.
have emergency lights have to feed at each exit door.
Okay.
But beyond that, there's at least not a building code requirement beyond that.
right.
Okay,
Nothing
cool.
Zoning code.
Okay, yeah, I just want to go on. Thank you for that question. Thank you for the proposal. What you've done, the idea of it is obviously, you said updated about 10 times, and that's exactly what it is, so I can appreciate that. The staining process, the existing brick color, how does that work? Because we're always concerned about the maintenance of what is done to the exterior. So can you talk about how you're going to go from this sort of look to the
Sure, so
stain?
it's actually a staining process, not a paint. So someone physically comes with a roller and paints brick by brick, not the grout, and stains every, we could show you some samples how it's done. It's a knockoff product that I could send.
A what product?
Knockoff is the name of the
Okay, yes.
manufacturer. So it's a stain product that doesn't need maintenance. And so it's not a paint where someone comes in and paints grout, mortar and brick all together, so color, so they actually come in and roll every brick and do it.
Okay. Yeah, we're slightly allergic to painting brick in this town, village. So yeah, if you could provide the manufacturer, and is this what you use? Emerson's a global group, it seems. Is this a standard for what they do with taking over buildings?
No.
Do you know that this application has been done in the past?
No, we've been done other, it actually gets done on municipal buildings and churches and stuff. We've used it
Okay.
on other projects because it allows the brick to breathe rather than
Okay.
painting, and eventually the paint with moisture has to be maintained.
Okay. So in your experience, it's maintained pretty well?
Yeah.
Okay. That's mostly what we care about, what I care about. I love the deck idea. I just love the reimagined version of this building. I think at best it was, I didn't even realize it was back there. And when I was like, where's my McDonald's? Where the heck? So it's set back, and but now it can actually be like a real, bright shining sort of spot in our town. So I appreciate the reimagination. That railing, is that like a steel railing? Obviously you don't want people falling over that, right? Because it's right over the parking lot. So what kind of material are the railings?
So the major part of it is a steel
Metal.
railing, and then
Okay.
there's cables, create the horizontals in between. So it'll be something that's actually carried inside the building also.
Okay. Yeah, and the landscaping sounds good. The back fence, that composite is, again, something that you've used in the past. You said that you've looked at it and there's questionable stuff going on behind that. Is that's secure enough for, okay. I just want to make sure it's sturdy, good fence that will keep
Yeah.
out,
The equivalent of it, it's going to be used on the decks too.
Okay.
It's not a Trex product, but people are familiar with
Yeah.
a fake wood product called Trex, so it's a similar wood look, but plastic and fiber composite material.
You said you have sample of that? Wouldn't mind seeing that. But yeah, other than the pavement,
This
park-
is the decking version, it's only one side.
Okay.
The fence version has two finished sides.
okay. And it's pretty thick. Very good. Yeah. You want to see that? I'm good. No other questions. Thank you very much.
Good.
Thank you.
Commissioner Yedna.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I like the building also. I really like the decks. Bummer for the people that are going to be in the lower level offices. They're going to lose all their sunlight.
Lower level is a good choice of words, they're not in the basement.
Well, it is lower level, yeah.
The garden department.
Yeah, they're going to be in the shade. I've been in offices like that before. Most of my questions were around parking, and I asked, we redid our condo balconies with very similar material. It's nice. Do you have, or does the client, or does the tenant, or I guess the owner, are they going to have guests or visitors or customers coming to the property? Because there's 27 parking spaces allotted. The planned growth is to 24. There's one handicap spot that you're taking out of the number. So I don't know if they had salespeople or anything like that. How are they going to manage that? Overflow parking.
The majority of the employees are sales representatives of some choice, so they actually travel quite a bit. So most times, the majority of the people aren't in the office every day.
Okay.
So they have desks and offices, but they're not there very often. So they're not worried about it. They have meetings sometimes, but it would be most of the people are out of the office or in the office, so they don't see parking as an issue.
Okay, I was just concerned. I mean, looks like there's a ton of parking around there, but I don't want to cause an issue with the other properties where they're complaining that they're getting a lot of overflow in the McDonald's parking lot or something like that.
They get very few visitors. If there's meetings, it's like planned meetings for certain manufacturers coming in, so they don't have a lot of drive-up traffic where people are visiting.
Okay. Yeah, because I did ask Marcy, and she was saying that per code, this is sufficient, but I was looking at your number of employees. The other question I had, when I actually looked on Google Maps, the north end of the building looked like there was only maybe 4 spots, but your drawings are designating 6 spots. There might have been 5 plus the hashed out area, and is there going to be enough for 6 spots plus that trash enclosure where you're designating?
So the previous layout, for some reason, on the very north of the parking in the back and the very south, they just striped off large areas. I'm not sure, I don't know why. So as part of putting the dumpster enclosure there, we're restriping to get regular sized spots in there.
Oh, so you did measure it out then,
Yeah.
so there's sufficient
Yeah.
space? Okay. And this question is more for staff, I guess. With this size of a building, is 1 handicap space sufficient?
Yes.
Okay. That was all I had, Mr. Chairman. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Thompson.
No questions.
Commissioner Creech.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The sample that you provided is, you said, is this going to be the same thickness for the fence as for the deck?
I believe it's, I'd have to double check on that if it's different material. There's a panel product, a decking product, and a fencing product. They only send us samples of the decking product, is the only thing available in samples, so I can verify that and go with you. My guess would be it might be slightly thinner, but I don't have the answer. No.
But it is going to be the same core material,
Yep, identical material.
only possibly a little thinner.
Possibly.
And what about the posts?
They have a column, an enclosure, it's a hollow sleeve that goes over it.
So
That's a
there'll be
matching-
metal posts?
I don't know if it'll be metal or wood, I haven't gotten that far too, but
Okay,
it's
there's-
a covered enclosure.
Okay, and then leading into my next question. There appears to be a curb around the whole perimeter of the north end of the building. So is the fence going to be on the curb or inside the curb?
I think by default it's gonna go inside, because the whole back of the building, we have this problem on the west side also. It's pretty much at the curb, so you'll have the same issue where it'll be,
Yes, the west side actually drops off considerably to the parking area for the condominium that are adjacent to that property. So I was concerned on, where the fence was going to go. My other concern is that the driveway from curb to curb on the entrance to that rear parking lot is only 10 feet now. And if if you're going to be going, putting a fence on the interior of that, you're going to be taking up approximately 6 inches of that, which gets down to 9'6", which brought me to concern if that is enough width for our possible fire apparatus. I was wondering if that was any concern, if that was addressed, because there was no dimensions on this particular site plan that I could see. So that was my other concern, and if you're putting the deck up as well, you're certainly making that whole area going to the rear parking lot pretty narrow.
The deck will sit about 1.5 feet within the curb line, so that'll be clear. That won't affect any.
Well, but, I'm thinking of, at least the mirrors on the truck could have gotten by before, whereas you're even making it narrower because of the deck.
Yeah, this has been reviewed by the fire department.
Okay.
And they were,
It's, like I said, I went over there and looked at it, and I saw that it was really narrow. And when I measured it, it's only 10 feet. So now we're getting down to 9'6", and even though the deck is going to be on the other side of the curb, east of the driveway, it's still narrowing the opening. So if it's been reviewed by fire inspector, and everything is fine, then I'm fine with it as well. And
Just as an anecdote here, we had some discussions with the fire department about potentially trying to change that northern access because it's a bit of a parking lot for McDonald's for larger trucks. They want that big, large radius entry into McDonald's for their truck route. So they come along the building there and they turn.
so that's the cross-access agreement.
Yeah, and they want that large radius for their truck to be able to turn west through McDonald's and not get trapped in that, even trying to get in there and backing out. So I think that's their plan for.
Or they can go in the condo parking lot. But those are the other things that I saw on here. And then, of course, you addressed the fact that you were going to do something with the asphalt in the future. So that's all the questions I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, I think all my questions were answered. Do we need to add a condition giving a deadline for the parking lot
Pavement.
working?
I'm
Yeah.
not sure how that would hold up.
Obviously in the spring sometime, but
Right, when did you say they were planning on doing it? They were going to move in the spring.
Yeah, what they don't want to do is rip up the parking lot and
right.
try to get the building renovated at the same time.
Understand.
Right.
So they are working towards occupying it next summer.
And when would they plan on doing the parking lot?
I think the plan was get into the building and then work out the next phase. I don't think there's a timeline for that.
Yeah, that's hard to put a condition on.
Yeah.
So we could give them like 6 months after move-in? Or 3 months after occupancy for completion of the parking lot? As part of
Carmen, any
conditions?
thoughts?
I mean, technically, it's not part of the submission now. I mean, you can, if you're comfortable with the recommendation, you can, or with the condition, you can add it. But I don't know that it would be, it may not be held up as contingent on approval.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, sir.
You can add it, but because it's not part of the overall project right now, as Marcy said, it may not technically be appropriate. If they were proposing it, if they're proposing the project, and you wanted a condition on completion of the entire project, I think it would be more appropriate. But since we're talking about the building and the landscaping now, and there is no projected time frame or even a submittal with improving the parking lot.
Could it be an enforcement thing?
That's what I think would be difficult, is they would have
Right.
their occupancy and everything would be closed.
Right.
And then it would be hard to tie.
So we would give them a temporary occupancy. until completion,
Which would be up.
like we do on a number of projects.
Could I just ask, would the condition be just to repair it, or are you asking for?
Well, to get it repaired where necessary, to seal it, stripe it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a whole, I mean, their restriping is part of the plan.
That's
submitted.
true, yeah.
Are you restriping the entire lot?
No,
or
just the back, because we had to
Just
put a
the-
dumpster enclosure in, yeah.
Well, the front needs it too.
Is that your whole parking lot from front to back?
Yes.
And McDonald's has nothing to do with the maintenance of the parking lot?
No. Just the shared access, no maintenance, I believe, no maintenance agreement, just they have to
Really? No
maintain
wear-
shared access.
You didn't get any wear and tear on that?
I'm sure they did. Yeah, it's being used as their parking lot now, more or less.
I've noticed that, and the other strip mall that's east of the property seems to be using it as well. But
Also, if you want to do a contingency, I would give more than 3 months. I just think it would take some time to get the plans together, and you'd have to bid it out. I would suggest maybe.
I'm just not, I don't know the condition of it, if it's a repair or a replace. We didn't go to that far to review that yet.
I think we'd have to be specific on, are we just talking restriping, or are we talking, grinding or milling, replacing?
Well, that's for an asphalt professional to look at, I guess.
So how do we do that if it's not part of it now, and we don't know the current condition or what's necessary? Can we, this is going to the board, I assume, and can they,
This one, yes, it will go to the board.
so can we,
You can always make the recommendation for the condition.
until, yeah, they figured out, and from now until then, you guys have to figure out what sort of repair needs to be done, sort of thing? I don't know,
Right,
like,
and I would likely agree with at least a 6-month period of time. I mean.
From
the-
occupancy?
From occupancy. I mean, the indication is that it would likely be in the summer, but
Yeah,
if construction is delayed and they don't end up until the fall, and then there are
Yeah.
issues with the weather for the asphalt, I wouldn't want to give them a 3-month time period in there in the
Right,
middle of winter.
right.
But you can certainly add it, and the village board will consider it.
Okay,
so 6 months seems fine, but can staff work with them until the board meeting to figure out what the level of necessary work is needed to specify that? Like, what are we
They would, yeah, they
claiming
would
now?
have to have someone evaluate it.
So what can we say tonight to make sure that you all follow up with
We can
that?
say that the applicant shall work with staff to determine necessary repairs
Okay,
to the parking lot.
okay, and specify the 6-month thing, okay.
Would the general expectation be, if, say it was in good condition, that it be sealed and striped cleanly? Is that
Yeah,
general
crack filling
expectation?
and,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
There are a few potholes that need to be repaired.
I almost wonder if you want to go 9 months from occupancy, because if they're going to do, well, if they're going to occupy in
Give
the
'em a
summer,
year.
that
After
pushes them.
Thanksgiving, you can't do any asphalt work from Thanksgiving through.
Right. 9 months gets them back into another construction season if they're going to occupy in the summer. So I would rather be fairer about it and give them some time.
Does that sound good, Commissioner Creech?
Well, they are making a substantial investment in this property with all the renovations and interior build-out. I would think that they would want to, continue that through the parking lot. Just the photos that I saw, indicate that it's, in a place where it needs to be, a grind and overlay. I would defer to, their contractor and what they recommend. So I think that if we give them, a reasonable amount of time, that should be sufficient.
Okay, so 9 months after occupancy. Sound good to you?
Yes,
Okay.
that's fine.
Everybody else?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else have comment on it? Okay, so be it. So are there any
I
other?
have one other.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, sorry. I preemptively struck your comment. I'm reading with the landscape irrigation system provide an alternate cost. Is there an irrigation system existing, or are you putting one in with all this new landscaping?
There's not one existing. So our direction was we had to add it as part of this process.
Okay, and that is the plan, okay. I just couldn't entirely understand what this number 9 meant, so, okay, as long as that's gonna be, I would just hate for all that new landscaping to not be irrigated, so, great, thanks.
Any other questions? All right, then do I hear a motion to approve docket number PC 19-21?
So move.
Second.
Do you want to hear the condition?
Oh, I'm
Yes,
sorry,
I'd love
yes.
to hear the condition.
The petitioner will work with staff to determine the necessary repairs to the parking lot. Repairs to the parking lot will occur within 9 months from occupancy.
Thank you. Motion was made by Commissioner
Kalis.
Kalis, seconded by who?
Blanova, I
Okay.
heard. Commissioner Kalis votes yes. Commissioner Blanova.
Yes.
Commissioner Sprague.
Yes.
Commissioner Yednick.
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
Commissioner Creech.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Wow, nice.
There's no box for that.
That's right. I need a new spreadsheet. Chairman Johnson.
Yes.
All right. 7 votes.
Thank you, and
Thank you.
welcome to Wheeling.
Thank you.
We're going to print this off for you.
Yeah, you'll have something to sign.
Want your plastic? It's too small to make up a deck out of.
Thank you, sir.
I'm creating a new row for absolutely.
And present.
That's right. Thank you.
Rob?
Just a minute,
You got some autographs.
can't leave without signing this.
And then I'll contact you.
There's 2 copies, you keep one, and we get the other one back.
Thank you very
All right,
much.
thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
All right, docket number 2019-25, Spot Forest. Special use and major site plan and appearance approval. That's also PC 19-22. Mr. Secretary, could you please read the documentation?
Yeah. Public hearing? No. This is special use, there we go. A special use as defined in the zoning code is a use of parcel of land that requires review and consideration before approval due to the potential for negative impacts on surrounding properties. In order to be considered for a special use, the petitioner is required to demonstrate through testimony to the Plan Commission at a public hearing that the request meets the standards of the village code, including, but not limited to, how the proposed use will not damage the enjoyment or use of the surrounding properties. Prior to the public hearing, the petitioner provides written statements meant to show that their request meets the standards for a special use as established in Title 19. The commission chairperson will typically direct that these statements be entered into a record without a full reading of them at the hearing. Based upon the testimony and supporting material submitted, the Plan Commission will make findings in support of or against the petitioner's testimony and report those findings to the village board. Notice is hereby given that the Plan Commission of the Village of Wheeling will hold a public hearing on November 21st, 2019 at 6:30 p.m. in the boardroom of the Village Hall at 2 Community Boulevard, Wheeling, Illinois, to act on the petition by Steve Chon, contract purchaser, seeking a special use as required under Title 19 zoning of the Wheeling Municipal Code, Chapter 19-06, Commercial Districts, 19-10, Use Regulations, and associated sections, in order to permit a day spa with submersion pools located at 350 East Dundee Road, which is zoned B3, General, Commercial, and Office District. Any interested persons are invited to attend and be heard. Yep.
Thank you. Ms. Nyes, what happened with this?
Thank you. So the petitioner requested a meeting with staff today, and we met with them later this afternoon, or late this afternoon, and they had presented us a plan that had some changes to the building addition and also to the detention basin and some parking spots. And these are positive changes that staff would like to see. But since there was a change in plans from what you reviewed in your packet, we suggested that the public hearing be tabled, or the agenda item be tabled until December 19th, so that you guys can review the new project documents.
Okay. Any questions from the commission? All right.
Does another public notice have to go out then?
So sorry.
Go ahead.
So that we don't have to send another public notice, the proper procedure would be to have a motion to open the public hearing. Open the public hearing, somebody makes a motion to continue the hearing to a date certain. I believe it was the December 19th meeting, so that will be reflected in the minutes, which will be published. And we do not need to send another, out another public notice, because the public hearing is just continued to that date certain, which will be on the agenda.
So anybody who was interested should have been here tonight, and they know that it's a continued.
Right.
Okay.
And the agenda will say that it's on there the next time.
Okay.
All right, so I need a motion to continue Spa Forest, both of these items, 2019-25.
We got to open first.
Technically, you should move to open the hearing first, so that we don't have to reschedule a public hearing.
Okay, motion to open the public hearing on 2019-25. That's the only public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Voice or
Voice time.
voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Now, we need a motion to continue 2019-25 and PC 19-22 to a date certain of December 19th, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Kalis, Commissioner Creech. Roll call on this one.
Commissioner Kalis votes yes. Commissioner Creech?
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova?
Yes.
Commissioner Sprague?
Yes.
Commissioner Yednick?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Chairman Johnson?
Yes. All right. Moving on to approval of minutes of the regular meeting of October 17th, 2019. Do I hear a motion?
Yeah, we're doing the learning experience.
I'm sorry, what?
Learning experience.
Oh, that's right, we did. Let's back up to items for review 7C, which was the learning experience that we pulled from the consent agenda. This was pulled because of some discrepancies between the plans and the written documentation. We are going to continue this to December 5th. And do we need a motion on that as well?
Just a motion to table it.
Just a motion to table it.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Sprague, Commissioner Creech.
Commissioner Sprague?
Yes.
Commissioner Creech?
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova?
Yes.
Commissioner Kalis votes yes. Commissioner Yednick?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Chairman Johnson?
Yes. Now we'll move on to the approval of minutes of October 17, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approval of minutes the regular meeting of November 7, 2019, including findings of fact for 2019-24. I know I had some revisions requested.
I had a revision.
Marcy said you had
Maybe
some?
the same one. We might have, I don't know.
You had, Commissioner Yednick had the,
There were 2 points, one of the items where it looked like a cut and paste from the earlier minutes where they had, one commissioner moved, the other one second, and a different commissioner moved, and a different commissioner second. It was on item
6A.
6?
Well, no, it would have to be 7.
Yes, yeah, 6A, yeah, the consent items. So it said Commissioner Creech moved, seconded by Commissioner Kalis, then right after that it said Commissioner Yednick moved, seconded by Commissioner Sprague.
This was on the 7th minutes?
Yeah, November 7th.
You said I was in there? I was not here.
Yeah, I think they cut and
Right.
pasted it from
Okay,
prior.
so that was the error. Got it.
Yeah.
And then the change I requested involved the poll that we did regarding buffer zones. When I read it in the draft, I said, no, I don't think I said that. So I looked at the video, and indeed, it was kind of a mix-up. We had one commissioner say 750 feet, another one say 500. Three of you down at that end said 250. And I said I was going to go with 500, but it looks like the majority is 250. But in fact, it's not a majority because 3 were for keeping it as staff wrote it, and 3 wanted larger buffer zones. So that was modified in the findings of fact that'll go to the board.
So what was your vote?
Pardon?
So what was your vote?
Mine, I say in it that I was going to go for 500, but
then it makes it a tie.
But then you went 250.
I didn't go 250. I said it looks like majority is 250, but in fact, it was not a majority. It was half keeping it for what the staff wrote up and half saying they
Something
wanted more.
different, yeah, okay.
So
We didn't have a
Technically,
majority.
it wasn't a majority
So it stays how it
because
was.
somebody wasn't here.
My apologies.
So that's the clarification I made. Doesn't really change anything. It goes to the board anyway, so.
Well, it does change the recommendation, yeah, it was, we didn't have a recommendation.
Right. So, that being said, and,
So move as revised.
pardon?
So moved
Oh,
as
thank you.
revised.
Thank you.
Second,
Okay.
Creech and Yednick,
Yep.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
1 abstain. All right, any other business? Ms. Nyes, let's start with you.
No other business.
All right. Mr. Creech,
I have nothing, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Commissioner Thompson,
Nothing.
Commissioner Yednick,
nothing, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Commissioner Kalis.
Glad to be back. Thank you, Commissioner Blanova, for stepping in for me. Appreciate it. Nothing else.
Commissioner Sprague,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have nothing.
and Commissioner Blanova.
Thank you. Well, it's a wonderful, one more time, it's a wonderful, how to call it? The lights up on Sunday.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so excited, it's gonna be gorgeous.
And I've heard they changed the parade route. I don't know
Oh.
what the change is, but I heard through my police contacts that they're changing where the parade's going, so we'll see. I had nothing else.
Just briefly, actually, since our last meeting regarding the recreational cannabis text amendments, a trailer bill did come out. It was passed by the legislature. And really, the only thing that affects what we discussed is on-site consumption. It allows municipalities to allow for on-site consumption only in or at a dispensary or in or at a retail tobacco store. So because the commission did not reach a consensus on on-site consumption, it doesn't change the recommendation. Staff is going to formulate what proposed language would be if consumption was allowed, which would be at or in a retail cannabis dispensary, because I do not believe that the village's intention is to allow it in a retail tobacco store. The only change is that they're not, the on-site consumption is not restricted to a location that's adjacent to a dispensary. It can be inside of the dispensary now. It does not have to have a separate.
That's a major change.
It is, and that's what the legislature attempted to clarify, what any other location, which was what was originally in the legislation, they changed it to at or in a dispensary or at or in a retail tobacco store.
What's the definition of a retail tobacco store?
So it's
'Cause
defined in the
everybody's selling
tobacco code, and it's any, it's a very long definition, but essentially it's any establishment that obtains 80% or more of its profits from the sale of tobacco. So technically, not a convenience store, typically like a
Okay,
gas
so you
station store, but
can't
it
light
is
up at
actually,
Walgreens.
it is a what you would know as a tobacco store, somewhere you're purchasing cigarettes, cigars.
Would that
other
mean that
tobacco
the
products.
tobacco store could then be a dispensary, or somebody would just walk in with their recreational marijuana that they obtained someplace else?
Only if the municipality allowed for on-site consumption at retail.
Well, yeah, I mean, if it
tobacco
was
stores.
allowed, but I mean,
Yes.
so if I went with my friends and they wanted to smoke tobacco and I wanted to smoke pot or whatever,
So-
that would be, but it wouldn't be, but they wouldn't be a seller then.
Well, it's an interesting thought because in most, what you'd know as retail tobacco stores, smoking is still not allowed.
Oh, really? Okay.
Now, if cannabis consumption was allowed at that location, the act does indicate that the municipality may essentially grant a waiver to that location so that it's not part or covered under the Smoke-Free Illinois Act.
It's kind of a strange twist. It almost would
Yes.
be like,
It really
I
is.
could go buy my alcohol someplace else and go into Walgreens because they sell alcohol and drink my beer in Walgreens openly because they're selling it. It's a weird twist.
I struggle to find any instance where on-site consumption would occur at a retail tobacco location unless there's some sort of, for instance, like a cigar lounge that sells cigars, but then also would allow cannabis sales. Typically, you're going to see it in a dispensary because that's the most prominent location. It's the place that makes the most sense from that business's standpoint. I would assume that most municipalities, if they're going to allow on-site consumption, would limit it just to cannabis dispensaries.
And the store itself would have the right
Right.
to ban it.
Right, they don't have to allow it if they don't want to.
Okay.
Or if their site plan just doesn't really fit it. So there won't be any changes to our recommendations. There will be some modification in staff's proposed language, but like we said before, the commission's not providing a recommendation either way.
Right.
We're just indicating what our vote is, and then the board will decide, and could vary from the staff's language too, if they decide to allow it.
Interesting twist.
Very interesting. Hopefully it's the last trailer bill.
And yeah, that was the only big thing that came out of it?
There were a couple other changes. If your taxing ordinance is in effect by April 1st, you can, I believe it was April 1st, you can collect by July 1st of next year rather than waiting till September. Medical marijuana or medical cannabis cardholders who are between the ages of 18 and 21 can now consume cannabis by smoking it rather than just using other formats such as edibles or tinctures or anything like that, because the smoking age in Illinois is 21. There were changes to drug-free workplace policy requirements or allotments for municipalities, specifically that public safety employees can be restricted from off-use or off-duty use of cannabis products, subject to collective bargaining agreements. But there's a specific exception in the act now, or in the trailer bill that applies to the act, that does not allow a public safety officer to, well, allows the municipality to have policy that public safety officers cannot use off-duty. Whereas before it was not specific in there.
Is it just for public safety officers, can like a big manufacturing company disallow their employees to smoke it recreationally? Can they enforce a zero tolerance policy within any business if they so do decide?
The act allows for zero tolerance policies to remain in effect. However, funny enough, state and federal law does not allow you to discriminate against an employee for utilizing a legal substance while off duty, unless they exhibit some signs of impairment that would affect either their safety, their productivity, the work being performed at the company. So that's another interesting twist.
Yeah.
And you can't prevent an employee, if you're a private employer, and most public employers as well, unless there are restrictions like a CDL holder or a public safety officer that has to be under a minimum BAC. You can't restrict somebody from drinking off duty.
Well,
Same
actually,
thing with
CDL licensees have much heavier restrictions as far as their tolerances, as far as, breathalyzers and, physicals and everything else, as far as drug testing
.04, I have seen.
or alcohol testing at this point right now, and or drug testing for CDL drivers. So I was just wondering if, so they technically could do this unless they get sued.
The employees could agree to a policy. There's nothing that says that an employee and an employer can't agree to a policy, but to have a policy that restricts off-work usage would not be allowed. And typical drug-free workplace policies that are in effect now would be allowed. Because, for instance, you can be under the influence of a prescription drug while not working, but you can't exhibit signs of impairment during your work hours for something that you're legally prescribed for. So because it's now a legal substance in the state of Illinois, that would fall under those provisions. There's going to, we do believe there are going to be.
There's going to be a learning curve, I'm sure.
Yeah, there are going to be some challenges. There may be some employers that try to put policies into effect, but the way that we interpret it and the way that it's been generally interpreted is that
Because I know a lot of
illegal
unions,
substance.
a lot of unions, have a zero tolerance policy if the company decides to opt for that.
Sure.
Whereas other companies do not do any drug testing at all for their employees. But I could see a heavy equipment operator.
Right.
They might have a little bit, tougher restrictions insofar as or a manufacturer that someone's working on a machine in a big, warehouse, or a forklift driver, whatever.
You can certainly expect it to be the subject of collective bargaining agreements in the near future, even for non-public safety employees. It's just, it's a new field in the state of Illinois, but it's been addressed in other states, so that's the experience that they have to look at this point.
How are they insofar as testing goes, though? Have they set parameters for, testing, or how they test, or?
It really depends. As far as law enforcement testing, there is no standardized test for, for detecting the level of someone's consumption right at that location. There's no roadside test like there is for BAC. There's not a nationally recognized roadside test. There are some tests that have been performed that are going through trials. But drug testing in an employment scenario, it would be through the generally recognized practices that are still allowed in a workplace setting pursuant to a drug-free workplace policy. But there's nothing in the act that specifies what kind of tests can be used, when it can be used, anything like that.
Thank you very much. That's been very insightful.
Sure.
Anything else, anyone? Okay, how about a motion to adjourn then?
So move.
Second.
Commissioner Kalisz, Commissioner Thompson, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.